What's good YouTube, Ben here, welcome to the next video on the channel. In this one, I'm going to give you my next Steel Path viable build on Warframe. This is going to be for Aeolak. Let's get into this. Right, so I recently finally built Aeolak, and I've been told before it's a fantastic weapon, and it actually really is. Of course, it's an assault rifle, so it's, semi-auto, or auto fire rate rather. But yeah, let's jump into the build. So, it's got a unique trait. Its alternate fire shoots an explosive projectile that deals blast damage in a 7-meter radius, which is really good actually because of being part status. We'll get into that as we go. But we've got Vital Sense for 120% critical damage. We've got Galvanized Chamber for 80% multi-shot and on-kill plus 30% multi-shot for 20 seconds, stacks up to 5 times. Galvanized Aptitude for 80% status chance and on-kill plus 40% direct damage per status type affecting the target for 20 seconds, stacks up to 2 times. We have Critical Delay for 200% critical chance. We've got Hammer Shot for 60% critical damage and 80% status chance. We've got Rhyme Rounds for 60% cold and 60% status chance. Malignant Force for 60% toxin and 60% status chance. And Hellfire for 90% heat. And we've also got Primary Merciless in the Arcane slot. Rank 5 on kill plus 30% damage for 4 seconds, stacks up to 12 times and 30% reload speed. Now this weapon by default comes with radiation damage built in. So because of that, with the mod setup we're using, we've added on Viral and Heat. Of course, Viral to help cut through health, Heat to help cut through armor, and with 125.4% status, you are constantly hitting those statuses. So this is where Galvanized Aptitude comes into play, because that gives you a lot more direct damage per status type affecting the target. Not to mention with decently high critical damage chance at 6.4 times critical multiplier, along with 63% critical chance, you're hitting crits most of the time anyway. Because of this being an auto-fire weapon, every bullet has 63%, so odds are for a whole mag, over half of it is going to be criticals. So because of that, you're dealing criticals a lot and you're doing a lot of damage because of it. You've also then got the charged shot, or the radial attack rather, which is blast damage instead of viral. You're always hitting 3 statuses no matter what anyway. And of course it comes with a lot more standard damage anyway. But without any further ado, let's get into the mission. I'll show you what this thing can do. Alright, as per usual, we're here at Oxsmoker in the Void, and I'll quickly explain why we're here. The Void is one of the latest game areas of the game, so you're dealing with the Corrupted, and with the Corrupted you're dealing with enemies with just health, enemies with health and shields, and enemies with high armor, giving you a more varied example of what your weapon / Warframe can do. Not to mention, I deem this as a Steel Path viable or Steel Path ready build, so it's usable for you on the Steel Path, but it's probably not going to get you to level cap, which is level 9,999 enemies. If that's what you're here for, then go for another build, because mine are just useful for the Steel Path. What else? But that's about it. Let's jump into the mission. So, with this weapon, of course, the faster the kills you get at the start, the better off your damage chances are going to be. Now, of course, a lot of weapons do start slightly slower because you do have to start proccing your mods and arcanes to do damage. But as soon as you do, you're pretty set, and you can start melting through pretty much everything that comes in your way. Oh, another thing I should mention as well, so I do have Archon shards on my Calervo, but because for those who know who Calervo is, he is a melee frame primarily. All of my Archon shards are either giving me energy, or they're giving me melee critical damage, which of course don't impact Aeolak in any way, because it's a assault rifle, not a melee weapon. So I wanted to clarify that, just in case anyone thinks that I'm being given extra. Also, my mod setup on Calervo, my build's on my channel, it's the same build as that. Nothing in the mod setup is giving him any extra damage as it pertains to his primary, so I can use... The only reason I use Calervo for these types of builds is because he is tanky as all hell. And with Gloom on him, he's pretty much immortal. Except for, acolytes, because some acolytes can one-shot pretty much any frame. If not dealt with in the correct way anyway. But as you can see, Eximuses, no issue. We are melting through them all. It literally takes a bullet, maybe 2, and they're pretty much toast. Now, of course, I'm going to stay in for as long as it takes to get to the Acolyte so you can see what it can do. Spoiler alert, works pretty well. But yeah, as you can see, we are doing a good amount of damage. And then, of course, because we're constantly proccing our statuses, and we're constantly proccing all 3 of them, heat damage will do damage over time as well. Meaning that even if you don't finish them off, like in that situation where I had to reload, it don't make a difference, because you're still taking them out anyway. And as you've seen, crap. There. Where they were. But as you can see, we are constantly proccing our statuses, so we're constantly dealing that damage, which is extremely helpful. And then, of course, headshots help. You know, you aim for the head, you're going to do a lot more damage by default anyway. So, ideally, I'm not going to not aim for the head, because aiming for the head is, one, what Thor should have done, and two, it's going to do the most amount of damage. Again, Thor should have done. So, always aim for the head, because it is the best way to get damage out. But as you can see, pretty much always we're getting yellow on the screen, which is good because that's indicating a critical hit. Now, you can, if you want to, change out, let's say, hammer shot for primed Bane of Corrupted or Corpus or whatever. The reason I don't is because, one, I like more general builds anyway because I always forget to change my mods. And two, for me, I see more damage potential with the higher critical damage as opposed to anything else. So from my point of view, I'm going to keep it this way because I just prefer the build this way. Of course, if you want to test it with that, feel free to. And for any build suggestions, let me know in the comments. But in my opinion, Hammer Shot is a mod that just doesn't get enough love. Don't get me wrong, I try and stray away from it as often as I can, purely because of how in demand the mod is. But if it's going to be really good for a build, I'm not going to not use it. I have it. So, but I always see in the in-game trade chat, like, people asking to buy Hammer Shot because it is a good mod. Like, it not only gives you a bunch of status chance, but also boosts your critical damage, and for a lot of weapons, that's extremely beneficial, because critical damage is the best damage in the game. Also, for anyone wondering why I'm not running hunting munitions, there's no need for me to do so. Again, another mod I try and stray away from. I know it's meta, but not every build needs it. Alright, melt through, and as you can see, we are ripping through the acolyte. Ow. And then, of course, because of our residual damage through heat, we are getting an absolute cluster ton of damage done. Boom, dead. Easy clap. There goes the acolyte. So as it pertains to acolytes, you can easily take out acolytes of Aeolak. It is a very fun weapon to use, and I do love a good assault rifle. I think my next build is probably going to be a rebuild for Kuvakarak, because I've rebuilt the weapon with a few new mods, as well as a new balance bonus. So stay tuned for that. But if you want to see more like this on YouTube, don't forget you can support the channel completely for free just by liking, commenting, and subscribing. It really does help with that YouTube algorithm. Don't forget you can also support the channel even further by becoming a channel member from as little as 99 pence per month. And don't forget I do live stream. When I go live here on YouTube and over on Twitch. My streams here on YouTube are in the shorts form feeds, more for mobile. If you want to see the exact same streams at the exact same time in full 1080p, feel free to join me on Twitch. That link is in the description below.